We're doing things a little differently today. As you might be aware, the case of Travis Decker, who murdered his own 3 daughters, is an ongoing case. But since his escape and his long-standing evasion of arrest has been going on for months now, it's of the utmost importance that we get as much information out about this man as possible. These little girls need justice, now more than ever. And like always, we take the stories of monsters and child killers from the top. Let's get into it. A word of caution. It should go without saying that this video will contain graphic details on the very gruesome murders of young children. So for those who are sensitive to that kind of information, you have been warned. Also, this is being recorded in August of 2025, so keep that in mind if you're watching this sometime in the future. When we finally catch Decker or new information comes out, I will be back to keep you updated on any developments. Travis Decker was born in 1992 and grew up in a military household. His upbringing was strict, structured, but he and his brother TJ were by no means abused kids at all. Everyone who went to school with Decker reports that he was incredibly hardworking, friendly, and generally well-liked. It was his dream to follow in his father's military footsteps, which is exactly what he did in 2013 after graduating high school. It's the same year that he met Whitney through mutual friends. Even though Whitney was 2 years older than Decker, the two hit it off immediately. During their first year of dating, Decker was deployed to Afghanistan in 2014, halting their plans to get married. This deployment would suggest first-hand experience in combat, but outside of a few mentions by news outlets, the military has not confirmed this deployment, so take that information with a grain of salt. They got married a year after his return and welcomed their first daughter, Peyton, a year after that in 2015. By all accounts, they were happy, in love, and the perfect couple. Friends remarked that their life was picture perfect. What we can confirm is that Decker served in 2017 with the U.S. Army's 503rd Infantry Regiment, 173rd Airborne Brigade combat team while stationed in Vicenza, Italy. That posting involved airborne infantry training and long-range marches, so his time there was spent mostly in training. There were no active combat situations during his deployment. During his time in Italy, their second daughter, Evelyn, was born, and little Olivia arrived 2 years later in 2019. Together, these little cuties look like a trio of cherubs. Decker never missed a sporting event or a school play. His girls absolutely adored their daddy, and anyone looking in could clearly see that this little family was thriving and delighted with each other. So how does a life so filled with joy and love go so terribly dark, so suddenly? Well, it all started when Decker made a change in career in 2021, when his daughters were 2, 4, and 6. He left service and took a job with the Washington National Guard. The whole reason he made the switch was so that he could spend more time with his wife and children, and he was incredibly excited about the extra time he was going to have to indulge in all of the family activities that gave him so much joy before. Unfortunately, at the age of 28, Decker had never been in a strictly structured environment inspired by the Army. Whatever demons he had always been kept in check by that regiment, the order and the schedules that dominated his every move. And now that those things were no longer there to keep him tethered in place, Decker's mind started to deteriorate fast. He started having trouble sleeping. The insomnia got so bad that he was getting only 1 to 2 hours of sleep a night. And when he did finally manage to fall asleep, he'd wake the house with his screaming from the nightmares he was getting. The lack of sleep made him cranky, unfocused, and always on edge. Whitney was almost equally exhausted, as it was at her that Decker would scream during the night while he was in the throes of his uncontrollable nightmares. He was never violent towards his wife and children, but his behavior was frightening them and keeping them out of sleep too. Unfortunately, Decker wasn't getting help for his struggles, much to Whitney's frustration. After the 100th time of promising to see a therapist only to back out at the last minute, Whitney filed for divorce in 2023. When Whitney called up Decker's brother TJ in hopes of staging an intervention, Decker had a very violent reaction to his family's confrontation. TJ decided to cut ties with his brother after this outburst, firmly believing that if Decker could shove and push his way through the people he loved, then he believed that Decker was capable of worse violence. At first, the split was amicable, with Decker seeing his girls often, but his lack of sleep was exacerbating his mental state more and more. Within months, he was living out of motels and his car, clearly struggling to keep any semblance of structure around himself without help. This new transient life forced Whitney to pull back on his visitations. The girls still saw their father all the time, but Decker had no appropriate accommodations for them to sleep, so weekends and overnight stays were taken away. Whitney continued to beg him to see a professional, and she did not withhold the girls from their father, nor did she believe that he was in any way a danger to them. Sure, he was stressed, unfocused, and in many ways lost, but Decker had never been violent towards his family. Decker was extremely unhappy about the new custody agreement, though. He fought back, saying that he and his daughters went camping often that required overnight stays, and he'd never route them into unsafe environments before, so why would he do that now? To Decker, it felt like Whitney and the legal system were punishing him when he did nothing wrong. What had once been an amicable split had now turned sour. By September 2024, the judge signed off on the new visitation agreement, allowing weekend visits that ended before evening. For the next 8 months, Decker failed to improve his living arrangements, forcing this new custody agreement to stay in place, but he never missed a visitation either. He was as committed to seeing his children as much as the law allowed. Decker always arrived on time and dropped them off within the bounds of his custody time. He'd never been late with pickups or drop-offs in the entire 8 months of this new agreement. Whitney even arranged for him to take the girls camping every now and then, and by all accounts, Decker might not have been happy about all of it, but he wasn't making a scene about it either. If anything, he was committed to taking every minute of his allowed time to dote on his precious girls. In May of 2025, on a Friday, Decker arrived to pick up the girls for his afternoon visitation. They were now 9, 8, and 5 years old. Whitney saw nothing out of the ordinary when Decker came to pick up the girls, except that he was a little more distant than usual. Still, they chatted for 15 minutes in the driveway and confirmed that he'd bring the girls back at 8 that evening, as the custody agreement entailed. But 9 o'clock came and went, and there was no sign of Decker or the girls. Whitney waited an hour. I mean, he could have had car trouble, or they went out for ice cream and he lost track of time. When she tried calling him at 9 p.m. and the phone went straight to voicemail, Whitney started to panic. Her initial thoughts were not that Decker's mental state had finally shattered, it was fear that he and their children had been in a car wreck. At 9:45, after failing to get through to him, Whitney called the police. By 10 p.m., Decker and all 3 children were reported missing. It soon became clear that Decker hadn't lost track of time. There were no reports of accidents on the nearby roads, no signs of any of them at any hospitals or clinics, and since Decker was technically homeless, no place to start looking for them. So authorities sent out searches to all of the nearby camping grounds and popular hiking spots. They called every hotel, motel, and lodge within a 2-hour drive. By the next day, the world was on fire with the news. Even if the girls did not quite meet the criteria to put them on an Amber Alert, social media took the reins and spread the news far and wide. Police were in a pickle. Decker hadn't shown any signs of mental instability, violence, or any intentions to run away with his children before, yet he was scheduled for anger management classes and therapy sessions that he never showed up for. The few professionals that had the opportunity to have met him were sure that he had PTSD and possibly borderline personality disorder. So were the girls in the presence of a mentally unstable individual, or had Decker simply packed them up and went off to start a new life with his kids without the courts keeping him from them? Sadly, authorities wouldn't have time to decide on which. On June 2nd, 2 days after they disappeared, at the Rock Island campground in Wenatchee, National Forest Rangers found a devastating scene. Parked at a campground was Decker's white truck, apparently abandoned. 75 yards away, at the bottom of an embankment, lay the 3 tiny bodies of 9-year-old Peyton, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 5-year-old Olivia Decker. Each child had their hands zip-tied behind their backs to stop them from taking off the multiple plastic bags that were tied around their heads. They all died from asphyxiation and had died slow, agonizing deaths. The car contained all of Decker's personal effects, his wallet, phone, and keys, and there was a set of bloody adult handprints on the back of the truck. The DNA came back to match Travis Decker's. A few miles into the woods, they found another campsite, complete with a used fireplace and a cooler. No one came to claim the items, and it was thought that Decker killed the girls, walked into the woods, and disappeared into the wilderness. Now, many believe that the bloodied handprints could prove that the family were accosted by a psycho who killed the girls and did something to Decker. But the FBI have always believed that Decker acted on his own accord. The campsite showed signs that he'd stored the zip ties and plastic bags there for several days before bringing his daughters directly to their deaths. The searches on his cell phone showed that he'd spent months looking for ways to relocate to Canada, and the separate campground almost certainly belonged to Decker. Search dogs, military men, helicopters, and patrols were deployed, but it looked like Decker only needed those 2 days to vanish off the face of the earth. With his extensive military background and the focus on survival and hunting skills throughout his childhood, Decker definitely had the skills to live out in the wild with little to no assistance from modern conveniences. Or he used those 8 months to plan accordingly so that he could get his hands on the necessary documentation to get across the border. And if he's still in that forest, then there's a colossal 4 million square acres to search. In the last 4 months, the FBI have closed off the campground and begun to search the forest piece by piece. Personally, I believe that if Travis was killed, whether by a perpetrator or by his own hand, then they'd have found his remains by now. That forest is thick, but the cadaver dogs' noses rarely miss human remains. The FBI are sure that if he's still there, whatever supplies he managed to stock up on would have run out and that he's bound to make a mistake. But I have a feeling he went off to Canada. No way did he put in 8 months of planning, going to sleep every night knowing that he was going to take the lives of his 3 precious little girls, leave their little bodies out in the woods and run away like the coward that he is. Killing kids? For what? Because he refused to get help to better his situation? Because he wanted to make his ex-wife suffer? Mental illness on its own doesn't explain this for me. If Decker had any violent outbursts, obvious paranoia, or some kind of outward symptom, then yes. Our servicemen are often failed by the system and are left to suffer with the mental scars left by the wars that they fought for their country. I get that. Really, I do. But Decker spent months planning this. I don't care how bad things get. If you spend 8 months planning to kill 3 innocent kids, then the problem isn't the system, it's you. Given that Decker is most likely outside the state of Washington or even in Canada, there has never been a more serious call to share this video. Share his face as much as you can. Whitney deserves justice for her babies. Peyton, Olivia, and Evelyn deserve justice for suffering a cruel, drawn-out end at the hands of the man that was supposed to protect them. The last time Decker was spotted, he stood at approximately 5'8", weighed somewhere in the ballpark of 190 pounds, and had black hair that lay under his shoulders that he usually wore in a ponytail. The distinctive tattoos on his arms, chest, and legs are very prominent, so take a look at the screen now. The team here at Evidence Obscured cannot abide by injustice, and we tolerate harming children even less. Speak up when you see something, report what you suspect, and always stay vigilant. Sometimes the monsters are our own neighbors, friends, and family members. Find Travis Decker. Make him pay for what he's done to these angels. I'll see you in the next one, people. Cheers.